My name is Sarah Martinez. I'm 32 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And 3 years ago, something happened to me on Interstate 40 that still keeps me up at night. I need to tell this story. I need people to know what's out there. Because if I hadn't made it, if I hadn't gotten away that night, nobody would have ever known what happened to me. It was October 15th, 2021, a Thursday night. I remember the day because it was my mom's birthday weekend, and I'd driven up to Flagstaff to see her. The party ran late, really late. By the time I said my goodbyes and got back on the road, it was already past midnight. I should have stayed the night. I know that now, but I had this big presentation at work the next morning, and I thought I could make it home in time to get a few hours of sleep before I had to be in the office. God, that presentation seems so stupid now. So there I was, driving south on I-40. It's about a 2.5-hour drive from Flagstaff to Phoenix. Most of it's pretty empty once you get past the suburbs. Just desert and darkness for miles and miles. My radio was acting up. It kept cutting in and out, just static mostly. My phone was almost dead. I'd forgotten to charge it at Mom's house. So it was just me, the road, and my headlights cutting through all that black. I wasn't scared at first. I mean, I'd driven that route dozens of times. I knew every exit, every mile marker. But there's something different about being out there at 2 a.m. It's like the whole world is asleep except for you. And you start to feel really, really alone. I was maybe 40 minutes into the drive when I first saw the headlights. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Just another car behind me. Probably someone else making a late night drive, you know? But after about 10 minutes, I noticed they were still there. Same distance behind me. Not getting closer. Not falling back. Just there. I checked my speedometer. I was doing about 75. The speed limit was 75. So maybe they were just doing the speed limit too, right? That made sense. But then I started paying attention to other things. There hadn't been any on-ramps for the last 20 miles. So where had this car come from? And why hadn't I noticed it before? I tried to see what kind of car it was in my rearview mirror, but the headlights were too bright. All I could see was this white light, like two eyes staring at me from the darkness. I decided to test something. I slowed down to 70, just to see what would happen. The car behind me slowed down too, still the same distance back. So I sped up to 80, then 85. The car matched me exactly, like we were connected by some invisible rope. That's when I started to get scared. I mean, who does that? Who follows someone for mile after mile, matching their exact speed? It wasn't normal. It wasn't right. I kept looking at my gas gauge. I had about a quarter tank left. Enough to get home, but not enough to play games. And the next exit wasn't for another 30 miles. 30 miles. You know what 30 miles feels like when someone's following you in the middle of the night? It feels like forever. Every minute that went by, those headlights stayed right there behind me. Not moving, not changing, just watching. I tried to think of logical reasons. Maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe they were going to the same place I was. Maybe they were sleepy and just using my taillights to help them stay focused on the road. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. You get this feeling, you know? This sick feeling in your stomach that tells you you're in danger. I started checking my mirrors more often. Every few seconds, I'd look back, and those lights were still there. Always the same distance. Like they were studying me. After about 20 more minutes, I saw a sign for a rest area. 2 miles ahead. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to just keep driving, get home as fast as possible. But another part of me needed to know who was back there, needed to see their face. So I put on my turn signal and pulled into the rest area. The car behind me put on their turn signal too. The rest area was completely empty. Just a few parking spaces, some vending machines, and a bathroom building. One streetlight that was flickering on and off, casting these weird shadows everywhere. I parked near the bathroom, and the other car parked about 50 feet away. Close enough that I could see it was a dark sedan. Maybe a Honda or a Toyota. Something common. Something that wouldn't stand out. But I couldn't see the driver. The windows were tinted, or maybe it was just too dark. I sat in my car for maybe 5 minutes, waiting. waiting for them to get out, go to the bathroom, do something normal. But nothing happened. They just sat there. Finally, I decided I really did need to use the bathroom. I figured if I went in there, maybe they'd leave, or maybe they'd get out of their car, and I could finally see who it was. I grabbed my keys and my phone, what little battery it had left, and walked to the bathroom. The whole time, I could feel eyes on me, watching me. The bathroom was one of those concrete block buildings. Fluorescent lights that hummed and flickered. It smelled like cleaning chemicals and something else. Something I couldn't identify. I was in there for maybe 3 minutes. The whole time, I kept thinking about that car outside, wondering what they wanted, why they were following me. When I came back out, I looked toward where they'd parked. The car was still there. But when I looked closer, really looked, the car was empty. Empty. I could see right through the windows now. No one in the driver's seat. No one in the passenger seat. Nobody. But the engine was still running. I could hear it idling. Could see the exhaust coming from the tailpipe. I looked around the rest area. There was nowhere to hide. No trees. No buildings except the bathroom I'd just come out of. If someone had gotten out of that car, I would have seen them, but there was nobody there. That's when I ran. I didn't walk. I didn't jog. I ran to my car as fast as I could, fumbling with my keys, my hands shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the lock. I threw myself into the driver's seat and locked the doors, started the engine, and put it in reverse. As I was backing out, I looked at the other car one more time. There was someone in the driver's seat now. I don't know how. I don't know when, but there was definitely someone there. A shadow, a shape, and they were looking right at me. I floored it out of that rest area. Tires squealing, going way too fast to the curb back onto the highway. But I didn't care. I just wanted to get away from there. For about 10 minutes, I thought I was safe. My rear view mirror was empty, just darkness. But then, slowly, those headlights appeared again. Same car, same distance behind me, like nothing had happened. That's when I really started to panic. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might explode. My hands were sweating so much I could barely hold the steering wheel. I started driving faster. 85, 90, 95. The car behind me kept up. I was coming into the mountains now. The road started to curve and wind. Steep drops on both sides. If you went off the road here, they might not find you for weeks. And that's when it got worse. The car behind me started moving closer. Not much at first, just a few feet, but then a few more, and a few more. I could see in my mirror getting bigger, those headlights getting brighter. Then it pulled into the left lane. For a second, I thought maybe they were finally going to pass me. Maybe this whole thing was just some weird misunderstanding. And now they were going to drive by and disappear into the night. But they didn't pass me. They pulled up next to me and stayed there, matching my speed exactly. I tried to look over to see who was driving, but the windows were too dark. All I could see was my own reflection staring back at me. We drove like that for maybe 2 minutes, side by side on this empty mountain highway. And then they started moving closer, not changing lanes, just drifting toward me, like they were trying to push me off the road. I moved as far right as I could without going onto the shoulder, but they kept coming. That's when I realized what was happening. They were trying to kill me. I don't know why. I don't know who they were or what I'd done to make them want to hurt me. But in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that they wanted me dead. So I did the only thing I could think of. I slammed on my brakes. Hard. My car went from 90 miles an hour to about 40 in just a few seconds. The other car shot past me like a rocket, disappearing around the next curve. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I'd lost them. But about 30 seconds later, I saw brake lights ahead of me. Red dots in the darkness. They were waiting for me. I knew I couldn't stop. If I stopped, I was dead. So I kept driving, but slower now. Maybe 50 miles an hour. As I got closer, I could see their car parked sideways across the road, blocking both lanes. There was nowhere to go. Steep mountainside on the left. Steep drop-off on the right. And this car right in front of me, I was trapped. I slowed down even more, trying to figure out what to do. That's when I saw the driver's door of the other car start to open. I didn't wait to see who got out. I yanked my steering wheel hard to the right and drove straight off the road. Not off a cliff, thank God, but down this steep, rocky slope covered with bushes and small trees. My car bounced and scraped and made horrible noises, but it kept moving. About halfway down the slope, I managed to get control again and steer back toward what looked like a service road at the bottom. I made it. Somehow I made it. I followed that service road for about 2 miles until it connected with another highway. From there, I could see lights up ahead. Civilization. It was a truck stop, 24 hours. Bright lights everywhere and lots of people. I pulled in and parked right next to the front door. Then I just sat there for about 10 minutes, shaking. A truck driver, this big guy with a gray beard, knocked on my window. He could see I was upset. "You okay, miss?" he asked. I told him what happened. All of it. He listened to the whole story, without interrupting. When I was done, he shook his head. "You're the third person this month," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Someone's been doing this. Following people on that stretch of road. Usually women driving alone. Usually late at night." He told me 2 other people had come into that same truck stop with similar stories. One woman said someone followed her for 60 miles. Another said they tried to run her into a ditch. "You need to call the police," he said. So I did. They came out and took a report. Looked at my car. It was pretty beat up from going down that slope. Scratches and dents everywhere. But they never found the other car. Never found any evidence of who it was or why they were doing it. The officer who took my statement said they'd had several reports of similar incidents over the past year. Always the same stretch of highway. Always between midnight and 4 a.m. Always someone in a dark sedan. But they'd never caught anyone. Never even gotten a license plate number. That was 3 years ago. I still drive that highway sometimes. During the day, never at night. And I always think about that person in the dark car. Who were they? What did they want? Were they trying to rob me? Hurt me? Kill me? I'll never know. But I do know this. If I hadn't made that split-second decision to drive off the road, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. So if you're ever driving alone at night and you notice someone following you, don't ignore it. Don't tell yourself it's nothing. Trust your instincts. Because sometimes the person behind you isn't just going in the same direction. Sometimes they're hunting. Story number 2, the Phantom Hitchhiker. I've been driving trucks for 18 years. 18 years. And I thought I'd seen everything there was to see on these roads. Drunk drivers, accidents, weird weather, you name it. But what happened to me on Highway 61 down in Louisiana? That changed everything I thought I knew about this world. My name's Mike Torres. I'm 41 years old, and I drive for Midwest Freight Lines out of St. Louis. I've got over 1 million miles under my belt, clean driving record, never missed a delivery. I'm telling you that so you know I'm not some rookie who gets spooked by shadows. I'm a professional. I know the difference between real and not real. At least, I thought I did. This happened 2 years ago. March 23rd, 2022. I remember the exact date because I had to write it down so many times afterward. Police reports, company incident forms, insurance claims. I was hauling a load of auto parts from Memphis down to New Orleans. It was supposed to be a routine run. I'd done that route probably 50 times before. Leave Memphis around 6 p.m., drive through the night, deliver first thing in the morning. Everything was normal until I hit Louisiana. That's when the fog started rolling in. Now, I've driven through fog before, plenty of times, but this was different. This was like driving through milk, thick, white, everywhere. I had to slow down to maybe 30 miles an hour just to see the road in front of me. It was about 12:45 a.m. when I saw her. At first, it was just a shape on the side of the road. Someone standing there, waving their arm. You see that sometimes people whose cars break down in the middle of nowhere. Usually I don't stop. Company policy says we're not supposed to pick up hitchhikers. Too much liability. But this was different. It was an old woman, had to be 70, maybe 80 years old. She was wearing this white dress that came down to her ankles, and she looked scared. I couldn't just drive past her. What if she'd been standing there for hours? What if she was hurt? So I pulled over. The air brakes made that loud hissing sound when I stopped. I rolled down my window and called out to her, "Ma'am, you need help." She walked over to my truck, moved kind of slow, like old people do. When she got closer, I could see she was really thin. Skinny arms, gray hair pulled back in a bun. Her face was all wrinkled, but her eyes were really bright blue, almost glowing in the fog. "My car broke down," she said. Her voice was soft, kind of shaky, about 5 miles back. I'd been walking for so long. I looked around. I hadn't seen any broken down cars. But with this fog, I could have missed it. "Where you try to get to?" I asked. "Baton Rouge," she said. "I have family there. They're expecting me." Baton Rouge was about an hour south of where we were, not too far out of my way. "Well, climb on up," I said. "I can get you there." She smiled then. First time since I'd seen her. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was sad, really sad. She climbed up into the passenger seat, moving slower than I expected. Took her a while to get settled. "Thank you," she said. "You're very kind." We started driving again. I kept the speed low because of the fog, but we were making progress. The old woman, she never told me her name, sat real quiet for the first few minutes, just staring out the windshield. Then she started talking. "You have children?" she asked. "2," I said. "Boy and a girl. Teenagers now." "That's nice," she said. "I had children once. 3 of them. Had. Past tense. I figured maybe they'd grown up and moved away. Or maybe something bad had happened. I didn't want to pry." "You've been driving trucks long?" she asked. 18 years. I told her. That's a long time to be away from home. "Yeah, but it pays the bills. And I like the road. Like seeing different places." She nodded. "I used to travel a lot too. Before." "Before what?" I thought. But again, I didn't ask. We drove for maybe 15 more minutes. The fog was starting to thin out a little bit, but not much. And that's when I noticed something weird. It was getting cold in the cab. Now, it was March, so it wasn't exactly warm outside. But I had the heater running, and it had been comfortable when I picked her up. But now, I could see my breath when I talked. I checked the heater controls. Everything was turned up high, but cold air was blowing out instead of hot. "Heater must be acting up," I said. The old woman didn't say anything, just kept staring straight ahead. I tried adjusting the controls again, but nothing changed. If anything, it got colder. That's when she started talking about things she shouldn't have known. "You had an accident when you were 16, she said. I looked over at her. She was still staring out the windshield, like she was talking to herself. "What?" I said, "A car accident. You were driving your father's truck. Hit a tree." My blood went cold, colder than the air in the cab. She was right. When I was 16, I borrowed my dad's pickup truck to go see a girl. Hit some ice on the way home and slid into a tree. Totaled the truck. Spent 2 weeks in the hospital. But I never told anyone about that except my family. And this old woman was a complete stranger. "How do you know about that?" I asked. She turned and looked at me then. Those bright blue eyes seemed to look right through me. "You think about it sometimes when you're driving," she said. "Wonder if you should have died that night." She was right about that too. Sometimes, late at night when I was driving, I'd think about that accident. Wonder why I survived when other people don't. It was like she could read my mind. "Who are you?" I asked, but she'd gone back to staring out the windshield. Like she hadn't heard me, we drove in silence for a few more miles. I kept checking the mirrors, trying to make sense of what was happening. The fog was getting thicker again, and the cold was getting worse. Then she spoke again. "There's going to be an accident," she said. "What kind of accident?" "Up ahead, about 2 miles. A car went off the road." I looked ahead, but all I could see was fog and the faint outline of the highway. When I asked. 1987, she said. 1987? That was 35 years ago. Ma'am, I think you might be confused. October 15th, 1987, she said. 11:47 p.m. Raining hard. Young woman driving home from work. She worked late that night. I didn't know what to say. This old woman was talking about something that happened decades ago, like it was happening right now. She was tired, the woman continued, working 2 jobs to pay for college. Fell asleep at the wheel right there by that big oak tree. She pointed out the passenger window, but I couldn't see anything in the fog. Died instantly, she said. Car caught fire. They found her the next morning. That's when I looked in my rearview mirror. The passenger seat was empty. Empty. I slammed on the brakes so hard that the truck skidded sideways across both lanes before coming to a stop. I looked all around the cab, under the dashboard, behind the seats, everywhere. She was gone, but the passenger's seat was soaking wet. Not just damp. Soaking wet like someone had poured a bucket of water on it. And there were muddy footprints on the floor mat. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the steering wheel. I grabbed my logbook and a pen and wrote down everything I could remember. The time, the place, what she'd said about the accident in 1987. Then I drove to the nearest truck stop and called the police. The officer who came out was this young guy, maybe 25. He listened to my story, looked at the wet seat and the muddy footprints, took some pictures. Where exactly did this happen? He asked. I showed him on the map. Mile marker 127 on Highway 61. He got this look on his face, like he'd heard this before. Mr. Torres, he said, I need to show you something. He went out to his patrol car and came back with a newspaper. Old newspaper, yellow with age. October 16th, 1987, he said, pointing to the date. The headline read, Local woman dies in highway accident. The article was about a 22-year-old woman named Patricia Hebert. She was driving home from her job at a restaurant in Baton Rouge when she fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into a tree at mile marker 127, the same mile marker where I'd picked up the old woman. But here's the thing. The picture in the newspaper wasn't the old woman I'd picked up. It was a young woman, 22 years old, with long brown hair and dark eyes. That's not her, I told the officer. The woman I picked up was old. Gray hair, blue eyes, maybe 80 years old. The officer nodded. Mr. Torres, Patricia Hebert would be about 80 years old now, if she'd lived. That's when it hit me. The woman I'd picked up wasn't just any ghost. She was Patricia Hebert. But she was Patricia as she would have been if she'd lived. An old woman who never got to grow old. Has this happened before? I asked. The officer nodded. About once a month for the last 35 years. Always the same stretch of road. Always the same story. Someone picks up an old woman in a white dress, and then she disappears. He showed me a whole folder full of reports. Truck drivers, mostly, but some regular drivers too. All of them describing the same woman. All of them finding wet seats and muddy footprints after she vanished. Why? I asked. The officer shrugged. Nobody knows. Maybe she's still trying to get home. Maybe she's trying to warn people about that stretch of road. There have been 17 more accidents at that same spot since 1987. I drove the rest of the way to New Orleans, but I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. When I got home to St. Louis, I did some research. Patricia Hebert had been working 2 jobs to put herself through college. She was studying to be a teacher. The night she died, she'd stayed late at the restaurant to cover for another waitress who'd called in sick. She was engaged to be married. Her fiancé's name was Robert. They were supposed to get married that Christmas. She had her whole life ahead of her, and it was all taken away in one split second on a foggy night on Highway 61. I still drive that route sometimes. I have to. It's part of my job. But now, every time I pass mile marker 127, I slow down and look for her. I've never seen her again, but other drivers have. The reports keep coming in, month after month, year after year. And you know what? I hope they keep coming. because that means Patricia A. Bear is still out there somewhere, still trying to make it home after all these years. And maybe, just maybe, she's watching over the rest of us who drive that dark stretch of road at night. Some people say ghosts are scary, but Patricia wasn't scary. She was just lost and sad and trying to get home, just like the rest of us. Story number 3, The Wrong Exit. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 5 years ago, I got married. It should have been the happiest weekend of my life. And for most of it, it was... But what happened on our drive home, that changed everything. Tom and I had our wedding reception in Johnstown. That's where his family is from. It was beautiful. Everything we dreamed of. But receptions run long, you know? Everyone wants to talk, take pictures, say their goodbyes. By the time we actually got on the road to drive home, it was already 11 p.m. We should have stayed the night, but we had our honeymoon flight the next evening, and we still had to pack. Plus, it was only a 3-hour drive. We'd done it plenty of times before. That's when the storm hit. I'm not talking about a little rain. This was one of those storms that comes out of nowhere. Lightning, thunder, rain coming down so hard the windshield wipers couldn't keep up. Tom was driving. He's always been a good driver, very careful. But the GPS kept cutting out. The signal would disappear for minutes at a time, then come back showing us in the wrong place, then disappear again. We were trying to follow Route 22 home, but in that rain, everything looked different. The exits, the signs, everything. And then we missed our turn. By the time we realized what happened, we were already 20 miles past where we should have been. So we took the next exit, figuring we'd just turn around and get back on the highway going the other direction. That was our first mistake. The exit ramp led to this narrow 2-lane road. No signs anywhere. No lights. Just darkness and trees on both sides. But Tom said it had to connect to something, right? All roads lead somewhere. We drove for 15 minutes without seeing anything. No houses, no other cars, no signs telling us where we were. Just this winding road through the forest that seemed to go on forever. I was starting to get nervous. We were low on gas, and neither of our phones had signal. Complete dead zone. That's when we saw the gas station. It came out of nowhere. 1 second we were driving through empty forest, and the next second there were these bright lights ahead of us. It was an old-style gas station, the kind you see in movies about the 1970s. Just 2 pumps and a little building. But the lights were on, and there was a sign that said, "Open 24 hours." Tom pulled in. "Thank God," he said. "We can get gas and directions." The place looked like it hadn't been updated in decades. Old-fashioned gas pumps with no credit card readers. But it was clean, and the lights worked, so we figured it was legitimate. Tom got out to pump gas, and I went inside to ask for directions and use the bathroom. The inside was just as old as the outside. Wooden floors that creaked when you walked on them. Shelves full of stuff that looked like it had been sitting there for years. Candy bars with prices written in marker. Bottles of motor oil covered in dust. Behind the counter was this old man. Had to be in his 80s. White hair, really pale skin, thick glasses. But he smiled when I walked in. "Terrible night to be out driving," he said. "Yeah, we got lost." I told him. "We're trying to get back to Pittsburgh." He nodded like he'd heard this before. Happens all the time. People take that exit thinking it's a shortcut. "So you know how to get back to the highway?" "Oh, sure," he said. "It's easy. You go back the way you came for about 5 miles, then take a left at the old church. Follow that road for another 10 miles, and you'll see signs for Route 22. It seemed simple enough. I thanked him, bought a bottle of water, and went back outside. Tom was having trouble with the gas pump. It was one of those old mechanical ones, and it kept clicking off even though our tank wasn't full. Took him forever to get $10 worth of gas. "Ready?" he asked. "Yeah." The guy inside gave me directions. Should be easy. We followed the old man's directions exactly. Drove back 5 miles, found the old church, this little white building with a cross on top, and took a left. But instead of leading us back to the highway, the road just kept going deeper into the woods. More trees, more darkness, No signs of civilization anywhere. After 20 minutes, I saw someone standing by the side of the road. A woman waving us down. Stop, I told Tom. Maybe she can help. The woman was maybe 60 years old, wearing a raincoat. She looked harmless enough, so Tom rolled down his window. You folks lost? She asked. Yeah, we're trying to get to Route 22, Tom said. Oh, you're going the wrong way, she said. You need to go back about 2 miles, then take a right at the old mill. That'll get you where you need to go. So we turned around and followed her directions. Found the old mill, this big brick building that looked abandoned, and took a right. 20 minutes later, we saw another person. This time it was a younger guy, maybe in his 40s. Same thing. He waved us down, told us we were going the wrong way, gave us different directions. That's when I started to realize something was wrong. Every person we met sent us in a different direction, and every direction took us further away from where we wanted to go. Tom, I said, something's not right here. He was thinking the same thing. We tried using our cell phones again, but still no signal. We tried the GPS, but it just showed us in the middle of blank space, like we were somewhere that didn't exist on any map. And the people, there was something off about all of them. They were too helpful, too eager to give us directions. And they all had this look in their eyes, like they knew something we didn't. After the fourth person gave us directions that led nowhere, Tom started to get really scared. We need to get out of here, he said. But how? We didn't know where we were, and everyone we asked for help just made things worse. That's when we saw the town. It was small, maybe 6 or 7 buildings total. A main street with a few shops, a diner, what looked like a post office. All the lights were on, like the whole place was awake, even though it was almost 3 a.m. Maybe someone in there can actually help us, Tom said. We parked in front of the diner. Through the windows, I could see people inside, maybe a dozen of them, sitting at tables, drinking coffee, talking. But as soon as we got out of the car, something weird happened. All the people in the diner stopped talking. They all turned to look at us through the windows, not just glancing, staring, like they'd been waiting for us. We walked toward the diner, but before we got to the door, this man came out. He was wearing overalls and a baseball cap. Looked like a farmer. You folks need something? He asked. We're lost, Tom said. We're trying to get back to Pittsburgh. The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was hungry. That's the only way I can describe it. Like he was looking at food. Pittsburgh's a long way from here, he said. Why don't you come inside? Have some coffee, warm up. We can figure out directions in the morning. Everything in my body was telling me not to go into that diner. Every instinct I had was screaming danger. No, thank you, I said quickly. We just need directions. The man's smile disappeared. You sure about that? It's awful dark out there. Easy to get hurt driving around roads you don't know. That sounded like a threat. Like he was telling us that if we didn't go inside, something bad would happen to us. More people started coming out of the diner. Men, women, even a couple kids. All of them staring at us with those same hungry looks. We should go, I whispered to Tom. But when we turned back toward our car, there were people behind us now too. We were surrounded. Come on inside, the farmer said again. We insist. That's when I saw something that made my blood freeze. Our car was surrounded by other cars now. Old cars, most of them rusted and beaten up. And in the windows of those cars, I could see shapes. People sitting in the driver's seats, just watching us. But they weren't moving at all, like mannequins. Tom, I whispered, look at the license plates. The cars all had license plates from different decades. Some from the 80s, some from the 90s, even a few that looked like they were from the 70s. That's when I understood what was happening. These people, they'd been doing this for years, decades, luring lost travelers into their town and keeping them there, the people in those old cars. They weren't mannequins. They were the ones who never made it out. We have to run, Tom said. The people around us started moving closer. Not fast, but steady, like they had all the time in the world. Tom grabbed my hand, and we ran for our car. The farmer tried to grab Tom, but he pushed him away and kept running. We jumped in the car, and I hit the locks as fast as I could. Tom started the engine, but the people were all around us now, pressing against the windows, rocking the car back and forth. Their faces, their faces. They looked normal from a distance, but up close, there was something wrong with their eyes. They were too bright, too eager. Tom put the car in reverse and floored it. We hit at least 2 of the old cars, but he didn't care. Neither did I. We just wanted to get out of there. We drove as fast as we could back the way we'd come. But the roads all looked different now, like they'd changed while we were in the town. We drove for what felt like hours, round and round on roads that seemed to loop back on themselves. No matter which direction we went, we couldn't find a way out. I was crying by then. Not just scared crying, but really sobbing. This was supposed to be our honeymoon weekend, and instead, we were trapped in some nightmare place that shouldn't exist. "It's going to be okay," Tom kept saying. "We're going to find a way out." But I could hear the fear in his voice too. That's when we saw the lights. Highway lights. Real highway lights. Not the fake ones from the gas station or the town. Interstate 76. I've never been so happy to see a highway in my life. We drove straight to the nearest state police barracks and told them everything. The whole story. The officer who took our report was nice enough, but I could tell he didn't really believe us. He asked us to show him on a map exactly where this had happened. But when we looked at the map, there was nothing there, just blank space marked as state forest land. "Are you sure about the location?" the officer asked. We were sure. We remembered every turn, every landmark. But according to the map, none of it existed. The officer said he'd send a patrol car to check it out the next morning. But they never found anything. No gas station, no town, no old church or mill. Nothing but trees. We went back ourselves a week later. During the day, with a full tank of gas and our phones fully charged, we found the exit we'd taken. But the road it led to was completely different. It went straight to a suburban development that had been there for years. No gas station. No winding forest roads. No town. Like none of it had ever existed. But I know it was real. We have proof. Tom's car had scratches on it from hitting those other cars. And I still have the receipt from the gas station. It's dated that night from a place called Miller's Gas and Service. But when we try to look it up, there's no record of any business by that name anywhere in Pennsylvania. I've done research. Spent hours online looking for other people who've had similar experiences. And I found them. Dozens of stories from all over the country. People who took the wrong exit and ended up in places that shouldn't exist. Most of them managed to get away, like we did. But some of them are still missing. I don't know what that place was. Maybe it exists in some space between the real world and somewhere else. Maybe it's some kind of trap that feeds on lost travelers. All I know is that it's real and it's out there and people need to be warned. So if you're ever driving late at night and you take the wrong exit and you end up somewhere that doesn't feel right, don't stop. Don't ask for directions. Don't trust the helpful strangers. Just keep driving until you find a real highway with real lights and real traffic. Looks directly at camera because some places don't want you to leave. And if you're not careful, you might never make it home. These 3 stories happened to real people. People who were brave enough to share their experiences, despite knowing that some might not believe them. Sarah Martinez still lives in Phoenix, but she no longer drives alone at night. She takes different routes now, avoiding Interstate 40 after dark. Mike Torres continues to drive trucks across the country. He's reported 3 more sightings of Patricia A. Bear over the past 2 years. Each time, she appears, asks for a ride to Baton Rouge, and vanishes before reaching her destination. Jennifer and Tom Walsh moved to a different part of Pennsylvania after their experience. They've never taken an unmarked exit again. These stories share common elements that appear in reports from across the United States. Isolated highways, late night hours, helpful strangers who lead travelers further from safety rather than toward it. The experts have theories. Sleep deprivation, road hypnosis, the power of suggestion combined with fear and isolation. But the people who live through these experiences know better. They know that some things can't be explained by science or psychology. They know that the dark highways of America hide secrets that most of us will never encounter. And they know that the next time you're driving alone on a deserted road in the middle of the night, you might want to think twice before stopping for that stranded motorist, or taking that unmarked exit, or trusting the helpful stranger who knows exactly how to get you where you need to go. Because sometimes the people who offer to help you are the last people you'll ever see.